My name is Stephen Lloyd Garrett. Right now what I do is I work with death, dying, grief, and loss. I help them through that eye of a needle that's so difficult to get through. Because our culture is so afraid of death that sometimes they need somebody like me to coach them through. When the body's dying, it's scary, like that's the end of me. The thing I like to do is I like to help people notice, so you're talking to me, who is it that's behind the eyes? Who's behind your eyes? Who's breathing your body? Who's making the heartbeat? And who is it that leaves the body? Because when the body's dead, there's nobody home. Well, who is that? So that type of knowingness makes the death process, in a way, sweet, while it's still sorrowful. So I'm a death coach or a death educator. We got a real bad relationship with death. Death is neither good nor bad. Death just is. It's just an event. How we relate to it is what's at issue here. And we got a terrible relationship based on fear and based on denial and based on what I call blind hope. I hope my brother's going to get better. All that kind of stuff mixes in with this. So we knock ourselves out of the ballpark with death, and we don't confront it well. Because we don't confront it well, most people don't die well. And we don't get to say goodbye well. We've outsourced after-death care, meaning funeral directors take care of all the details. We've outsourced dying care to the hospitals. So we are in this kind of sanitized relationship with death, where we just sort of sit back, paralyzed and dumbfounded, and don't know what to do anymore. We're robbed of our mental capacity to say goodbye well, our emotional capacity to say goodbye well, our physical capacity to say goodbye well, and our spiritual capacity to say goodbye well. So we got a bad relationship. When I was a young man, I was a teller in a bank. I became a bank manager, then became a portfolio manager for the Alberta government, and I ran some of their Heritage Fund monies, and then I became an investment finance guy in downtown Toronto. My sister Jody died in 1988, and it was her death, oddly enough, that had me wake up and realize I'm in a suit and tie, and what's this desk, and what are these computers, and what am I doing with money? Like, how did I get here? And when Jody died, it came as quite a shock to me. It was unexpected and very sudden. And so I realized then, all this stuff I've been struggling for my whole life that I thought would be able to secure me and keep me happy is worth nothing. So I quit being a stockbroker and became a social worker. And did that for about 15 years, and I became a workshop trainer, and now I'm a death guy with zero training. I just jumped in. About 5 years ago, I had this conversation with God. I call God grandmother, because I like it to be more human. And she asked me if I would consider doing some work for her. And I said, well, what do you have in mind? She said, I'd like you to change the way North America does death and dying. And I thought she was pulling my leg, but as it turns out, she wasn't. So I took on this calling, if you will, of serving my people, which are North Americans, in the realm of changing our relationship with death and dying from fear and denial to maybe acceptance and inspiration. And one way to do that is to bring the conversation out into the public. And so I just did it. What a death cafe is it's like here. We're in a coffee shop, and people are drinking coffee and eating some snacks, and we're talking about death and dying and the meaning of death and dying to our very lives. So it's not a morbid kind of thing where everybody's like crying or sad or held back or nervous. We're just chatting with each other much like this. And sometimes sadness shows up, but that's okay. It's more just a conversation. We're bringing death back to life, so to speak. It started in Britain, in the UK. John Underwood was the founder of it. Just one guy thought, we got to start talking about death and dying. They're now all over North America. I do one in Maple Ridge. We did one in Squamish. We're going to do one in Campbell River, up in Williams Lake. And it's just people who are curious, because I used to think nobody wants to talk about death and dying. That was a mistake on my part. Everybody does. They just don't know with whom to talk about it, where to talk about it, when to talk about it, or how to talk about it. So the Death Cafe answers those 4 questions. We give them a when, we give them a where, we give them a how, and they come. I can't change death, but I can change how people relate to it. So I'm trying to help people see that maybe death isn't the bad guy at all. That death could perhaps be a great guy in disguise. Let me tell you a story. I was sitting with an 85-year-old woman. She's in a hospice. She's 2 or 3 or 4 hours or a day from death and dying. She's breathing very quickly. She's scared and she's like freaking out because nobody's talking to her about death nor answering her questions. So I went and sat on the side of her bed with her, and I lifted her frail little body up and I put her on my chest, so her back was on my chest. I put my arms around her and just held her, just like you'd hold a baby, you know, and just breathed a little bit so she could relax her breathing. And then we lay her down and chatted, and she said to me, "I'd like to say something to you, if I may." And I said, "Sure." She said, "You know, I love my husband very much, but I always held 5% back. I don't think I should have done that." So after my shift was finished, I thanked her and went and sat in my car, and I thought to myself, if I don't want to be her on my deathbed, regretting that I didn't love my wife and my kids enough, what do I have to do today? So her deathbed regret turned into a life lesson for me. So that's how death can be a good guy. It's not a good guy for her, she's gone. But for me, I can take her deathbed regret and turn it into a life lesson. And that's the beauty of death. If we spend more time around it, is we'll learn a lot of stuff like that. So my brother passed away about 1.5 years ago. And back then I thought I was pretty good with it. And I was very good with it mentally. I got the concept, you know, I'm gonna die. Yeah, okay, got it. I was good with it emotionally because, you know, I've seen a fair bit of death. Being a cremationist, I saw a lot of dead bodies. And I was okay with it spiritually because I've got a very strong spiritual belief. But I kind of forgot my body a little bit, and because it's the heaviest piece of our incarnation. And so I'm in the hospital room with my brother. We're in Creston, BC. And he's dying. He's got 4 or 5 days to live. My brother's DNA is the same as mine. So in a way, his body's transmitting some information to my body, and my body's starting to freak out because being a mammal, I'm programmed to survive, but I'm seeing right over there in my brother's body, I'm not going to. And I had a heck of a time staying in the room with my brother, despite the fact I was quite mentally prepared, quite emotionally prepared, and quite spiritually prepared. My body wasn't. My body wanted to get out of Dodge and go have a beer because it was like scared. My body was panicking because it was clear that it was going to die. So that kind of experience helped me get more clear physically. So my body is now reluctant but satisfied it's going to die. So I'm okay with it. And what it does for me, being okay with it, is I don't worry about taking risks, or I don't worry about tomorrow, or I don't worry about all that kind of stuff because I've only got today. I don't have a tomorrow. It's likely I will, but it's no longer a guarantee for me. Hang out with your grandma. Hang out with your grandpa. Go into some seniors' homes and volunteer. Plant a garden. You know, till the soil. Plant a seed and see it grow and harvest it. Get pets. Anything to do with the natural cycle of life and death. We do that simply, and things start to change. It's not the daunting thing that we thought it was. It's like ice skating. If you don't skate much and then you hop on the ice, you're going to fall over. Well, same with death and dying. If you're not in that environment much, you're going to fall over when you are. So plant a garden, get a pet, and hug your elders.